search of lower taxes have apparently caused elected officials to pass a new tax relief plan specifically aimed at keeping elderly residents in the state. The plan, called Stay NJ, aims to cut property taxes in half for most of the state's seniors. The problem? It doesn't take effect until 2026, leaving critics to question if the payouts will ever actually happen. And joining us now to talk about New Jersey's newest property tax credit and more, Special Focus contributor and anchor of State of Affairs on WNET and NJPBS, Steve Adubato. Steve, welcome back to the program.
Great to see you, Raf.
So, Steve, let's start. Property taxes have been sky high in New Jersey for as long as I can remember. But the specific problem of the elderly moving out of New Jersey in search of lower taxes, that seems new to me. But whether it is or it isn't new, and you can tell us, how big is that problem?
It's real. And Raf, you know Florida better than most. Florida does not have an income tax. It's anecdotal, but I have lost count of the number of friends, contemporaries of mine, who have left the state to be in Florida for one day more than half the number of days in the year, which then means you don't pay any income tax. That's a big deal. And so New Jersey is losing a whole range of disproportionately middle and upper income people to other states who have lower taxes, or in the case of Florida, no taxes. It's real. Every time I've interviewed Governor Murphy, he argues it's not real. He argues the statistics don't back it up. Anecdotally, Raf, I have to tell you, it feels very real to me.
So how's the new law supposed to work? Who's eligible for the tax break, and how much are those who aren't eligible going to be getting?
So first, let's be clear. Governor Murphy, when this was proposed, this Stay NJ property tax rebate, if you will, or tax credit, when it was proposed by the State Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin, Governor Murphy actually said, and you know this, Raf, because you covered it on Metro Focus, Governor Murphy said, no, I'm against this. And Governor Murphy at the time said not only could New Jersey not afford it, not only was it geared toward upper income New Jerseyans, he said, I will get this benefit as a multimillionaire, which Murphy is. He said, I am willing to potentially shut the government down by not signing this budget on the last day of June, right, which is when the Constitution says the budget has to be struck. Then all of a sudden there was a negotiation and it got done. So here's the deal. If you earn less than $500,000, you are eligible for this tax credit, up to $6,500 in tax credit. That potentially, Raf, since I know I'm getting into the weeds a little bit here, the average property tax bill is $9,500 a year. So if there's up to a $6,500 tax credit, it potentially cuts property taxes in half for a large number, 90% plus of all New Jerseyans. Then all of a sudden, Governor Murphy was for it. He was signing it. It passed unanimously in the Senate. Virtually everyone voted for it in the Assembly. No one apparently wants to be against a tax cut in an election year, and that's what happened in New Jersey.
So listen, one of the biggest criticism of Stay NJ is that it will disproportionately benefit wealthy homeowners. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a Washington-based nonpartisan research group, for example, called it a, quote, unsustainable tax cut for the 1%. Is that a fair characterization?
I think originally, Raf, it would have been. I know this sounds crazy, but once you moved it down to $500,000 or less, it changed a lot, because it's not 1%. It's a different number than that. But the reality is this. Here's what I'm more concerned about. I'm actually more concerned that New Jersey can't afford it. I'm actually more concerned that the federal aid tied to the pandemic is dried up. I'm actually concerned that why are we doing this in the beginning of 2026, Raf, if it's such a good idea? If New Jersey can afford this tax credit give back, why are we not doing it now? We're not doing it now. We're doing it when the next governor takes over, because not Christie, but Murphy will be gone by then. I don't know if the state's going to have the money to do it, and I seriously question whether it's ever really going to become a reality.
So that's a question, but maybe there we have the answer as to why Murphy changed his mind about this bill. It's not going to be in effect.
Not on my
So,
watch, Raf. Not on my watch.
But if it is postponed till the next administration, and I believe the next administration has the prerogative to follow it or not, I mean, what are the chances that the thing is ever going to be implemented? Really?
So, Raf, again, you and I not big on political prognostication, and whoever would have predicted a global pandemic. I'm going to say this: I think the odds are not in favor of this ever becoming reality, because I do believe New Jersey's fiscal picture is going to change significantly over the next few years. It's going to be a lot tighter. The surplus is not going to be there. The federal money is not going to be there. I'm concerned about income tax and sales tax revenue. And I believe the $1.3 billion, Ralph, $1.3 billion it's going to cost to fund this Stay New Jersey tax credit give back, I believe it's going to be very hard to find that money in January of 2026.
Well, this tax credit is part of the $54.3 billion state budget that was passed, which is 7%, which is a 7% increase from last year's budget, and a 45% increase from the first budget Governor Murphy signed into law in 2018. So you must be mistaken. The state must be flush with cash for now and for the foreseeable future. If on this election year they're passing this generous budget with this generous tax cut, where am I wrong?
Are you saying that with a straight face, my partner and friend? So here's the way I see it. I give Governor Murphy a lot of credit and the legislature for fully funding the public employee pension fund. And without getting deep into the weeds in this, you and I both know, and others who follow government policy well, know that the state the state pension fund is underfunded. It's a huge liability, but to Murphy's credit, they paid into it. That's a good thing, because it had to be paid. If you don't pay it, the interest rate down the road, too high. However, this give back, this Stay New Jersey, Stay NJ give back, in my view, is not smart public policy. And the governor was originally correct when he said this is not smart fiscally. Even though changes were made, amendments were made, modifications were made, they negotiated, it's still a mistake. I believe that this budget, bigger than ever, miscalculates the future. I'm a fiscal conservative when it comes to my own family funds, meaning you got to think worst case scenario. You've got to be conservative, and I don't mean politically. You can't count on all this new money coming in again. It's not coming from the feds anymore. I believe that a mistake was made in increasing this budget to this degree at this time. It was not smart fiscally. Politically, maybe, but not fiscally.
But all that being said, just to be fair, there are some things, for example, as you said, I remember when we were doing the program, having the public pensions funded was
Big
a
deal.
perennial problem, and that seems to have been taken seriously.
More money for childcare, more money for pre-K, more money, allegedly more money, sorry for interrupting, Ralph, for public schools from the state, even though some school districts are complaining. A lot of good things have been done here, Ralph, to be fair and clear.
Yeah. So out of this $54.3 billion budget, which is very big, we both agree. How much of it would you say is filler, and how much would you say is politically calculated rather than necessary?
You know, Ralph, as a former state legislator, which you like to remind people, I was there for go ahead, Ralph, you're laughing already. I was there in the mid-1980s, 25 years old in the legislature, 27 voted out of office, and on the finance committee at the time, the budget and finance committee. One person's pork, one person's fat in the budget is another person's, hey, that's a really good project for my constituents. So, Ralph, I am not going to take on the question of fat and pork, because if it's helping someone in their district, their constituents want it. So what's fat, what's pork, and what's, hey, really good policy?
Yeah. So going back to being unfair.
Hey, we're not being unfair.
No, I'm kidding. But going back to questioning what's
Sure.
been happening. So we have this budget at a time when, as you correctly say, the fiscal future of New Jersey is cloudy. You really don't know at best. Probably negative, if not cloudy. And we have this tax credit that is expensive, maybe too much geared to the wealthiest New Jersey, maybe not, but certainly probably it's not even going to happen. Um, and I think the implication is that it's all happening because it's an election year.
Right.
You're an expert on the subject of leadership, so let me ask you: is this good leadership?
I think it's pragmatic, not leadership, but politics. I think it's pandering, not leadership, but politics. I genuinely do not believe it's honest. I genuinely do not believe, and I respect the Speaker of the House, I respect the governor tremendously, and this President of the Senate, Senator Scutari. They all were on board on this. For every Republican and Democrat in the Senate unanimously to vote for this, while they're saying, many, particularly Republicans, that we can't afford it, you tell me, Rap, if you vote for something that you think we probably can't afford, but you vote for it anyway for fear that constituents will say you didn't vote for a tax cut, is that really good leadership, or is it pandering to the lowest common denominator to gain some political points? People can decide for themselves.
So, when speaking of leadership, your new book is Lessons in Leadership 2.0, the tough stuff, follow up to your 2016 Lessons in Leadership.